Brookline family is celebrating a victory today on behalf of their 5-year-old daughter and other kids just like her. Harper Oates is, by all accounts, an impressive young girl. Cognitive tests have shown her to be 1 or 2 years ahead of her peers, according to her parents. But when they tried to enroll her in the elite private school near their Brookline home, where their 2 other kids had gone, Harper was denied admission. The school said that because she was born with a spinal cord injury that paralyzed her arms and legs, the type of curriculum she would require would force it to fundamentally alter its educational model. Last week, that school settled with federal prosecutors who say the Park School violated the Americans with Disabilities Act and discriminated against Harper when it refused to admit her without properly determining whether it could accommodate her. The school maintains it did not discriminate, but it has agreed to train its admissions staff in Americans with Disabilities Act compliance, provide broader training for faculty and staff, and remove architectural barriers to make the school accessible to those with disabilities. I'm joined now by Harper's mother, Dawn Oates. Dawn, it's good to see you again. I guess we
Thanks for having me on again.
Since January. Pleasure.
Yeah.
Can we just go back to the beginning?
Sure.
When Harper applied, her father had gone, your husband had gone to the school,
That's right.
and her 2 siblings were in the school.
Correct.
And this is the kind of school, from what I understand, where one sibling gets in and generally the whole family gets in, and they knew about Harper, right?
They did know about Harper. It appears that they did have a pattern and practice of behavior of admitting all siblings when you make a decision to admit some. I can't say that that is their policy. However, it was a situation where even when we applied with Jack and Olivia in the very first interview, I said to the admissions director, is this a school that you think Harper could ever come to? And at that moment, and that was a few years ago, she said to me, well, I think when Harper has the tools to access her education, then I think for sure it's something that we could consider.
How hard was this for you, this whole thing? We're going to get to the outcome in a minute.
Sure.
How hard was this whole travail?
Well, it was extremely difficult for a lot of different reasons. I mean, anytime somebody takes a position that goes against what is the norm, you're putting yourself at great risk. First of all, you have to truly believe that you're right, and not just they say a worried mother does better research than the FBI, and so in a span of 6 months' time, I had to really knuckle down and figure out what are my rights legally, what is disability law state, and how is that different from public and private schools, and in this case, it didn't at all. And so that's when we were comfortable moving forward. It just didn't feel right.
So, well, the Park School didn't want your daughter, Dexter Southfield, wanted your daughter with a passion. And then you decide, that's a fair statement,
yeah,
is it not?
I'd like to think so, yeah.
Well,
sure.
I read the admission thing,
right.
and it appears they did. And you ultimately decided to transfer your older 2 kids there, too,
That's
yes?
right. We let them finish out the school year, and then we made a decision to move all 3 of them to Dexter Southfield.
Were any of the kids old enough to understand at all what was going on here? Did they ask questions? Why did the older kids say, why are we switching schools?
They did ask questions, and we explained them as best we could in a child-appropriate manner. Obviously, it uprooted them from friends. We had a lot of friends and continue to have a lot of friends within the Park School community, which is nice. But it's difficult. It's like moving to a different town. You have to go. It's not a choice. Let's make it as seamless a transition as possible.
What did you tell the older kids?
We were pretty straightforward with them. We just said Park School made a decision that we felt wasn't fair. We are looking into that. We are initiating conversations with the school. We had multiple conversations with the school at our request over many, many months, and never were able to convince them that they were making a decision that violated ADA, and we asked reconsideration, and they didn't, and so their hand, unfortunately, was forced by the U.S. Attorney's Office.
When you were here in January, I asked you what you were looking for. You said you didn't want restitution,
no,
so no fines, no penalties. You're okay with that?
Right.
Did you get what you were looking for here?
When we asked the head of school, Cynthia Harmon, for resolution to this, we proposed several items, and many of those items are exactly what the U.S. Attorney's Office handed down as sort of sanctions, if you will. Training for their staff, that everybody would know what ADA is, updating their disability non-discrimination policy and making that public, all of those things that we wanted. I mean, I feel very comfortable. I haven't seen the final, and I haven't seen them carrying it out yet, but the one thing that seems to be missing is any sort of outreach to the family. I mean, as you recall, this was many, many, many months that we went to the school and said, hey, look, this is ADA, this doesn't feel right, this feels unfair. Come on, we put it right in front of them and showed them the law, basically, and they couldn't answer our questions, and we still to this day haven't had any outreach from the school. There's no apology, there's no admission of any wrongdoing. Even the letter that they sent out to their entire school community implies that they made that the U.S. attorney didn't take exception to their admissions decision.
Yeah, can I read that? I'm so glad you said, because I was hoping, apparently not, that you could explain this to me.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the first part of this statement. It's in the letter to the parents in the school, too. Well, DOJ, Justice Department officials, did not find fault with the decision to deny admission of the student. They did find fault with how Park reached its decision. They go on to say, we take it very seriously. What does that mean? What does that mean in English?
It seems to me, my opinion, it seems to be your classic cover your butt, spin, polishing a turd. You know, you have a finding from the Department of Justice, the U.S. Attorney's Office, that says you violated the Americans with Disabilities Act. This is a 27.
And you discriminated against this kid.
That's right.
But they then said to the Globe that they did not discriminate.
And
they signed this agreement.
Correct.
How can they sign an agreement saying they discriminated and then say they didn't discriminate?
You know,
doesn't that worry you? Does that not cause you to worry that what they've agreed to on paper they may not follow through with and implement, if that's their attitude?
Sure, it does cross my mind. Unfortunately, they're not in a position to be able to not comply. There is a federal group that is watching to make sure that they comply, and so that's not my worry anymore. I think that it concerns me that a school with such a strong school community would deliberately make misleading comments in a memo that went out to the entire school, basically saying, well, while we didn't do anything wrong by not accepting her, that's not what was at play here. This investigation was never about the outcome. This investigation was about a process that was flawed and riddled with ethical issues and legal issues that we made very clear back in August when we met with Cynthia Harmon, the head of the school. We said, look, this is not an outcome issue. This kid was never going to get in because your admissions process was broken, and it was broken and flawed in these specific ways. I mean, I had the law there with me. I told her the things that she was going to have to later hear from the U.S. Attorney's Office.
I'm smiling at you only because it sounds to me like you're not done fighting for kids like your kid. Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah, I think that is a safe assumption, but I think I would like to, because I had to go through this and because it was so challenging and difficult, I would like for all the parents out there who might possibly ever be in my situation, 1, know your rights. 2, trust your gut. 3, don't be afraid to speak out because, this is the best outcome that we could hope for. And I think it makes a difference in the lives of so many children all across the country. And we're talking about kids not just with severe disabilities like my daughter. We're talking about it could be your child who has a learning disability or a speech impediment, needs minor modifications that really aren't a big deal to a school that has the capability to do that. And
that kid got the right mother. Let me just say it right now, Dawn.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Keep fighting.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Say hi to your kids.